podcast sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. My name is Tony. I'm here with Dave, David, and Connor. Dave Stevens, David Sterling, Connor Ennis. I'm Tony Pervenanzi. We are coming to you today from a brewery, guys.
Yay!
We are at Alloy Brewing in Coon Rapids. We're back out in the public. Feels good to be back here.
It does.
I mean,
very good.
Thank you to Alloy for letting us come out. They have their social distancing things going on. We had to make a reservation. You know, there's only a time limit. You know, they're all wearing masks. They've got their things up. They've got everything kind of situated out here. But it is fantastic to be back here drinking beers from an actual tap.
Yes.
Well, we
had the conversation before we started. This is my first time sitting in a restaurant, brewery, bar, period, since March 14th, I think it is. So it's the first time.
This is my first time since we were at. That was Inbound or Insight?
It was Insight. Yep.
Yeah. I literally haven't been anywhere since then.
I was at Boondocks in Otsego a couple weeks ago, and they had their patio open, and that was nice, but it was outdoors.
So this is your first indoor. It's my. I haven't been on a patio yet either, other than Sterling's deck. 2 weeks ago. So it's nice.
It is fantastic to be out here. Before we talk about our beers here, guys, today is their third anniversary of this place opening.
Yeah, it is.
And unfortunately, because of COVID, they couldn't do a big party.
Right.
So they got us out here instead.
Right. Yeah. Which was probably a bad choice.
Yeah. Well. But it's their third anniversary. Again, great brewery. Dave is not here. He's actually doing
That's too bad. Yeah.
He's closing tonight. That's what they told me. So he couldn't be on the podcast. But we'll hit him up again when things get a little more normal, as they say.
Yeah.
But this place is great. 3 years they've been here. I think they're going to be here for a lot longer. And
I think so too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think this is the most fitting place that we could be for our first one back. They've been great. Alloy's fantastic brewery.
Let alone the fact that we had
fantastic sauce.
We had our 50th show here too. That was
it seems
very
like a
special place.
Seems like a lifetime ago, but that was back in January 26th. We did our or just about did our 50th, and so this is our fourth time overall recording as a podcast here.
I hate to say it, but I almost think that Alloy is kind of our home brewery.
It's shifting that way.
It'd be cool to just think of that.
Yeah. It's kind of our home brewery. So if we have, we have issues with getting somewhere, we can always come back here. Like this right now. This is the first place we kind of thought of coming back out to do a show. With COVID kind of dwindling Minnesota and things opening back up. This is the first place we thought to come back out to. So
exactly,
here we are, and we're enjoying their delicious beers. And they've got a couple of new ones which we're trying. David, you got one of the new ones that they have.
Yeah, so I got the bourbon cream ale.
What happened, bourbon cream ale?
Yes, and it's delicious. I don't even know how to describe it other than that. It's a cream ale, like you'd expect, and I love cream ales. But the bourbon, it's they aged it in oak staves, right?
Yep.
So it adds just this vanilla sweetness to it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's a little high in alcohol.
It is at
7.2, I think.
7.2,
yeah. For being the first beer of the day, it was a little...
Yeah. Well, it's their first time out of the brewery for a while, so make it happen. Dave, what'd you get?
I should start by saying I might have to try that one later just because first of all, I got a pint of my favorite beer maybe in the region, let alone Alloy. It's the corrugated cream. So you're talking about the bourbon cream. I've always, since day one, the first day I came here, the corrugated cream really struck out to me. So really stuck out to me, I should say, not struck out. But no, I love that. But I did to keep with the theme of their new beers and coming back out. I actually got one of their beers from their sour series, which is called Laser Lips, and I ended up getting the pomegranate. So it's great. It's really tart. Got a sweet taste to it, and it just sticks out. They say they put in 100 pounds of pomegranate into the batch, so it really stands out. But so it's kind of refreshing. It's not too heavy. It's 4.9%, so good, just a little taster to get me started.
Connor, what'd you get?
So I went with a little bit more of a classic choice for Alloy, and went with the Earthshake IPA. It's part of their milkshake series, and it's packed with Mosaic, Callista, and Citra hops. And I've always loved this IPA. Ever since I first started coming here, it's incredible. Like, I'm not really a big milkshake IPA fan, but this one's really good. But I also would like to say that I think I want to try yours a little later. I usually don't stray from IPAs, but I think I want to try that bourbon cream ale a little later.
I'm working on this one pretty well.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can get our own. We don't need to taste out of your glass necessarily.
It's no tastings.
Yeah.
I also went with the pomegranate laser lips because I'm a sour fan, and it is fantastic. I love sours, and this hits the spot right there. I also picked up one of the Earthshake, or is it Earthshake?
Yeah.
Earthshake IPAs for a little bit later after knowing the pomegranate. So I'm just excited to have a draft beer, boys.
I know, and and nothing against canned beers, but just being able to watch it come out of the tap, and then taste it like that, it's just different.
You forget what you kind of forget what we were missing here, and this is
absolutely.
And I should say, this is one of the places most of the breweries that we visit and around the area have are available for curbside takeout. They still are. Right. This is one of the places that I visited over the quarantine period and picked up. Of course, I picked up the corrugated cream and the one of our favorites as well. Is it cherry lime wit?
Yeah, the wit.
They still have that on tap, so that might be one to try later as well.
Like I said before on this podcast, places are opening back up now, but they're still available for takeout and pick up growlers and crawlers and what have you. So if you don't want to go in and sit on their patio, go out to these places and support them. They're trying to open back up. Before we get into soccer talk, I want to mention that Nell Simpson is here. He came out today. He's our only guest, kind of person in the crowd today.
Well,
yes,
it's hard to get a big group out here,
right.
given the current restrictions. But it is nice that we have Nels. He was here for our 50th back in January as well, so that's cool.
Yeah. So I think Nels are coming out. He couldn't get John out here though.
I have a feeling that would be difficult for him right now.
Oh yeah, that's right. The surgery.
Yeah.
Although he is on House Party, I see it popped up. So
he is really.
We could get him on the House Party.
Bring him in.
We could put it right here. We could put it right at the end of the table here.
That's true.
Have
Just
a
set
house
him up.
party. Have a house party. I think it get a little bit crazy though with him, and he's drugged up, so
Yeah, exactly.
Don't want to deal with it. So let's get to soccer. Before we get into the MLS Welcome Back tournament. Sorry. Let's talk about Ike Opara, guys, because with everything we talked about 2 weeks ago with the protests and things of that nature, MLS has come out and they're doing a Black Players Coalition, the first one ever.
Right.
And our boy Ike Opara is on the board of directors, I believe, for this Black Players Coalition, which will be interesting because I think a lot of change can come out of this. I think there's going to be a lot of discussions about what things in MLS they can do differently, what's working, what's not working. And my guess is of all the major sports leagues out there, I think this MLS Black Players Coalition will have the most say in what happens. I think MLS will be agreeable to a lot of things they're going to say.
I think so too. The league has gotten better and better at listening to, really, its players, its fans, social change. Something about soccer has always seemed to be, especially in the United States, it's much more forward-thinking, progressive than most other sports.
And maybe as far as like supporters groups are certainly that way, it seems. But we touched on it last time in the podcast. The MLS as a whole is, there is basically a lack of, I guess, I don't know, it's not necessarily a lack of diversity, but there's certainly a lack of black players in the league currently.
It is. There are,
That being said, I think it was Ike Opara, like you said, Tony, was on the board of directors, but I think there's 70 members that started.
Over 70 black members, including Ike Opara, Kai Kamara, Jeremy Abobasi, Kendall Waston, CJ Sapong. And fun fact about the Black Players Coalition, they launched yesterday on Juneteenth.
Yes,
everybody
should mention that.
So I think it's a good step. for MLS to have this. I'm proud that one of our own, Ike Opara, is on the board.
I agree.
I've listened to Ike talk before. He did. Connor, you were talking about that roundtable they did in February for Black History Month.
Yep.
I listened to that, and he's a very, very good speaker. Comes across like he's smart. He knows a lot of things. So I'm glad he's on this board.
Well, he's on. He has his own podcast with Benny Feilhaber and Sal Zizo as well.
Yes.
So he's got a lot of practice in the speaking.
Don't promote other
there.
podcasts on our podcast.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry.
I'm kidding.
Actually, I was going to bring it up too on the Sound of the Loons, which is of course the Minnesota United's podcast. I don't. Now this is going. I'm just saying that they actually it wasn't Ike Opara, but Corey Hayes and Mason Toy were on just the other day. Talking about Juneteenth and that coalition as well. So it's
like I said, I think this is a good thing for MLS. I'm happy, and let's get some change going. That's all I want to see what happens.
I agree. Yeah, it'll be good.
And side note, the president of the United States will not be watching soccer anymore. Per his tweet.
Was he watching soccer to begin with?
I don't think he was.
I can't picture him being a soccer fan.
A lot of his tweets are shocking to me, obviously, and most people, and you kind of get numb to it after a while. But I mean, so it was more of a shock that he kind of suggested that he did watch soccer than that he wasn't going to watch soccer.
Maybe it suggested that, but he suggests a lot of things,
right.
so I don't know.
And the reason why he said that was because MLS came out and said, during the national anthem, you can do whatever you want to. It's a free country, we're a free league, do what you want. And then the president came out and said, well, if they're going to do this, then I'm not going to watch soccer. And everybody's like, we don't give a shit.
Right.
Do what you want to do.
Exactly. And I don't, it's one of those things where I don't care if a player kneels, stands, lies down, doesn't even show up.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't care if there's a fan in the stands that disagrees with whatever they do.
Yep.
I mean, who cares? I mean, the greatest part about this country is we can do the things we want to do.
Yep.
That's right.
And if they want to do something that they feel expresses, their whatever feelings towards whatever issue, fantastic. That's the great thing about it.
It is. So, on to the tournament coming up, guys. Well, actually, let's not talk about tournament. Let's go into some European soccer first.
Okay.
Just get that out of the way,
all right.
And then we'll talk about the tournament. All the leagues in Europe are pretty much back now.
Pretty much.
All the major ones
Ones are back.
Yeah, I think so. Premier League kicked off this past Wednesday as we record this, the 17th, I think it was.
So there's been a lot of TV. Premier League's been on, I think, NBC or Sport.
Yeah.
They've been on there.
La Liga is back.
La Liga, Serie A is back. So all of them are pretty much back. Funny thing about La Liga was they had a guy get onto the field.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see that either.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they had a guy get onto the field, even though the whole stadium was closed off. Somehow he snuck into security by acting like a security guy.
Nice.
Then got in there and then ran on the field.
I got to give him props for that.
So,
that takes skill.
I mean, so we're almost back to normal a little bit. I mean, there's no fans there, but at least there was a guy on the field.
No kidding. And of course, with the EPL starting this week, we can't go without saying that we are, I think, ultimately back when we have a gaffe.
Yes.
Yeah.
As bad as we had.
We had. I don't even know how to explain the gaffe that happened.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure everyone knows what we're talking about, but it was Sheffield United
and Aston Villa.
And
Aston Villa.
Aston Villa.
And that was on Wednesday. In fact, I think it was, at least it was, I can't say it was the first match. It was certainly on the first day of their, bringing it back. It was on Wednesday. It was the first televised match on NBC Sports Network. And it was kind of in midday.
And it's one of those things where literally everything went wrong with this goal.
Yeah.
Or no goal, sorry.
No goal.
How the fact that the referee didn't see that it was a goal. How the fact that nobody reviewed it. How the fact that no form of technology even
Yeah.
Told
I've
them.
seen closer calls than that.
I have too.
Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, they did in the Premier League. They didn't waste any time in coming out with an apology immediately after the game. I mean, they gave
But-
an apology to Sheffield
that's
United.
It's not like the ball barely crossed the plane.
Right.
Right, yeah.
It was
This
in the
cross.
It
net.
was by at least half a foot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, and I saw a picture on Twitter where they had, and I don't know his name, the goalkeeper's name. They showed him saving it, and then they zoomed in on his face, and you could tell he's like, "That's a goal."
Whoops. Yeah, you can tell it was in a whoops. Yeah.
But isn't there a point where even as a player, you need to be like,
This was a goal. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. As a player, though, if they're not going to call it, then
is
you're
there
going to
some
say anything
level of
about
integrity that you got to
No.
have as a professional?
That's really a judgment call.
Yeah.
You do see players that make the right decision there, but then you see players that are just like, oh, just keep playing.
Yeah.
You know?
I just think it's a shame that this happened because, first of all, I think there's always a little bit of controversy surrounding new technologies. Well, I don't know if it's a new technology, but say VAR in general.
Yeah.
I think there's especially a problem in the Premier League. There was a lot of
But,
groaning,
it's been
against the ticky-tackiness of the VAR reviews and calls, and this just adds to that whole swarm of it. Because I think they said the technology they're using. I think there's 7 different cameras, and somehow, like in 9,000 matches, I think I read or saw that this hasn't happened before. That somehow the cameras missed it. Because of the angles and where the players were at, and like David, you touched on, the ref obviously missed it, and then it was basically, and then the VAR, basically that group could have, said, oh, take a look at this, oh, take a look at it,
Yeah.
because they didn't get a flag saying, hey, check this out. They just let it go.
And
so there was failure on multiple levels.
And it's just bizarre because the keeper is literally leaning against the inside. Well, sorry, leaning against the ball, which is leaning against the inside
Against
of
the
the
net.
post.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the ball, he's got all his weight on it, so
Yeah.
the ball is actually like pushed against the post for like a full second.
Yeah.
It's like, how could you not see this?
I think
Yeah.
if this was a Sheffield United podcast, we'd spend an hour and a half talking about just that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because,
yeah,
I mean,
100%.
so they came out with a point. It was a 0-0 draw, but they could have picked up the extra
3
couple
points.
points.
Yeah.
And where they're sitting at, so Premier League, unlike MLS, is in a different situation. Kind of like Bundesliga when they picked up. They only have 8 or 9 matches left in their season.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Sheffield United's sitting in
It's sixth
spot.
Yeah.
Just they're 2 points behind Manchester United.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
They're that
so
good, huh?
fighting for either
Which, considering it's Sheffield
Champions
United, that's
League.
pretty impressive.
yeah
Sheffield
Champions
United,
League.
they even have a game in hand of Manchester United, so they could move above them to the top 5.
Yep.
Get
And
a
you're talking Europa.
Europa League spot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, props to Sheffield, obviously. But,
Well,
Who would have seen that coming this year?
unfortunately, this could be something that keeps them out of those things.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
And no apologies are going to matter there. I mean,
No.
it's like, I just remember listening to the broadcast, or listening to the broadcasters, and they were both saying, this is obvious.
Yeah.
Like they were
Right.
talking, this is an obvious goal.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. In today's age, it's like we have so much technology that it's getting worse. I don't know.
Well, and you got to, you always see whenever there is a close call like that, there's always that little diagram that appears on TV where you have a bird's eye view of the goal and you see the where the ball was on the other side of the goal. And I'm just wondering, even if all the other cameras didn't pick it up, how did that one not?
Yeah, the goal line
Yeah.
technology, you'll see that. It just, it was a complete failure on multiple levels.
I
It's
think-
so frustrating.
I think I found a way around this, guys. You have everybody, when there's in the box, right? You have everybody in the stands take out their cell phones and tape what's going on. And then somebody will have an angle that actually shows it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Then you upload it to like a server where they make like a 360
Oh, no.
generative.
Even better, even better. Everybody who comes in the stadium has to wear a hat with a little camera mounted right
GoPro.
here.
GoPro.
A
yeah.
GoPro type
Yeah.
of thing. And then you just have it. Of course, there are probably some privacy issues with going to the bathroom, and everything like that.
Yes.
But I mean,
And of course, like in the Premier League here, in Sheffield United, there are no fans in the stands right now, so
Right.
we can't get
Yeah.
that going yet.
Yeah.
But good idea. Once we
Yeah, I mean,
start
can
out.
you imagine what the fans would have been like?
holy!
Oh yeah.
I think there would have been stuff thrown on the field.
Oh, it would have been a melee.
I think there would have been
yeah.
craziness.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And it's hard to say. Can you imagine if it's in the right end of the field?
And now, of course, off the top of my head, I forgot, but of course, it was in Birmingham or it was in Aston Villa
Right.
Villa
Yeah.
Stadium,
Yeah.
Villa
Yeah.
Park, whatever it's called. But so, fortunately, if there were fans in the stands and the game was played at Sheffield,
But I would support a riot in that instance.
Well,
I would.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those situations where it's like I would applaud Sheffield fans
Yeah.
for making something out of, maybe not violence.
no, you don't.
Like
No.
straight up violence, but
I mean, you saw what happened when
getting kicked out for something like that, I would be like, I would pay to a GoFundMe to refund his tickets for
Yeah.
losing his.
Another great idea. If you were a fan of the stands of Sheffield, I would have everybody sit there and not leave the stadium.
Yeah,
Just
There you go.
sit
Do
there
something
and
like
do a
that,
sit-in
yeah.
type of thing.
Peaceful protesting.
Yep.
yes, another you touched on it, David, but I completely forgot about this one. So it could and will maybe have huge implications because you mentioned the Europa League in fifth spot, but it's been so long since the Premier League was on. It's three months, like everything else. That remember, Manchester City is actually they've been banned. So if their ban is upheld,
that's right.
If their ban is upheld,
Yeah.
that fifth spot would be a Champions League spot.
Oh,
So
man.
it could be even bigger than a Europa
point.
League's big for
Yikes.
Sheffield United, but wow.
I keep going back to comparing that situation to that Frank Lampard goal against Germany in the World Cup like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Like that's the whole goal
That
that put
killed
this
England.
goal line technology in perspective in the first place. And then this doesn't work,
Right.
and you just wonder what's still wrong with this. you
Right.
know?
Exactly.
Well, that's Europe. Let's talk about a tournament closer to home. Because we have the MLS is Welcome Back. Is it Welcome Back?
It's the MLS is back.
Is back, sorry. Is back
Check
tournament.
your hashtags, Tony.
Yeah, sorry. Is back, Welcome Back.
And guess what, people? Minnesota are playing in it.
Yeah, we are.
We
it's
are.
amazing.
Just a few weeks away.
Yeah.
So they did the group stage picking type
Yep.
of deal. Before we get to who was in our group, Dave and I were talking about this. It seemed like when they were picking the group stages that a lot of the rivalries ended up in the same group.
Yep.
It
we
is
have
weird.
El Trafico. We've got
The Rocky Mountain Cup.
Rocky Mountain Cup. We've got, I think, in the East, don't we have...
So we have
You've got I don't know what it's called, but you've got the Battle of Ohio in Group E.
the Hell is Real rivalry.
Hell is
Hell is
real.
Real,
I should have
yeah.
known that. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of it off the top of my head. but-
Inter Miami ended up in the same group as Orlando.
and did you
Yeah.
did you mention the Canada matchup in
Yeah,
Group C?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Toronto,
if you would-
Montreal.
Basically, it's one of those situations where if you woke up this week and looked at the groups, you're like, oh, well, this isn't random at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a chance? And Connor,
I watched
thanks for reminding us. I would have forgot. But
I
think
watched it.
I did watch how they did it, and so it's
Yeah.
hard to say, oh, it's rigged. But
Yeah.
the way they did it, but
Could have been pre-taped.
Right.
it could have.
Well,
been.
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in Group B you have Seattle, Dallas, Vancouver, and San Jose. So everybody but Dallas is on the West Coast. And if basically if you switch Dallas with Portland in their group, Portland's in with Houston and El Trafico. If you switch Dallas with Portland, you've got all of Cascadia in one group, and then you've got the Texas rivalry in the other group.
Right,
So
yeah.
it was that close.
And then the group that we're in, we talked about it. It's kind of like a bubble of Midwestern
Yep.
Yep.
teams.
You've
you
got
know.
the Rocky Mountain Cup and the nicest rivalry in the MLS, as they
Right.
like to call it.
Yeah.
So the only cup that didn't happen, or derby didn't happen, was the Dylan Wolpers Derby. We didn't get that
Yeah.
going
yes, exactly.
Oh, wait,
And
I saw that. That was
was
the
the-
anniversary of that was
yeah.
just a
Yeah,
few
the other
days
day,
ago,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think one other thing that shows the randomness is that Orlando and Atlanta aren't in the same group, because that would be those two teams just hate each other.
Yeah, but Atlanta's in the same group with New York Red Bulls, though, and those teams also hate each other.
That's true.
They're pretty bad, and then they're also in the same group with the Hell is Real Derby, so you've got two different rivalries in there.
So our group is, of course, us. We've got Real Salt Lake, we've got KC, and we've got Colorado.
Yes.
Correct. Right? This is the group that we wanted to begin with.
Going into it.
Going
maybe.
into it.
I didn't want this.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait a minute.
It's a group of dark horses.
No, let's stop. Let's back up just for a minute. So in the Western Conference, you had as
Dave trying to rein us in.
well, I'm just saying, as your let's say top seeds, you had was it LAFC,
LAFC, Seattle, and Real Salt Lake.
and so if you started at that point and said which of those groups do you want to be in, I think I would have said Real Salt Lake.
We wanted
I
to
would
be Real
have
Salt.
picked hands down LAFC
Okay.
That's true. We
because
only,
we've always
had the
actually
upper
played
hand.
well against LAFC.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to just hijack the entire discussion
All right.
and say this is, as Connor, you just pointed out, the dark horse group.
Yeah.
Every single team is a dark horse.
Yeah.
And we have done terrible against every single team in our group. It doesn't matter how good they are, because none of them are really that great. We don't play well against them.
It's a new year.
Obviously, Sporting KC is the obvious.
But it's not a
Sporting
new
KC.
year. I mean, if you think about it,
It's
we
a new year.
had 3 months off, and
Yeah. We've never had a team this good, though. When we always lost to Colorado, and we had the team that we had in 17 and 18, and then Real Salt Lake. Obviously, I mean, I remember them. They were our first win in MLS, but ever since then they've had pretty much the upper hand on us.
Yeah.
And then Sporting Kansas City are probably the biggest competition, I would say, in that group.
And obviously, Sporting and Minnesota are the top 2 teams in the West.
Yep. In the league.
In the league, that's correct.
That's right.
Are you talking about 2020 standings right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
After
And then,
the two
but,
games
and
we
I think
played.
I don't have the
Two
standings.
games.
I don't have the standings in front of me, but I think I made a clip the other day. I think Colorado Rapids are actually in third.
They're in fourth.
Fourth. Okay, so they're
Fourth
at,
behind Atlanta of all places.
Okay.
Think about that.
Yeah.
3 of the 4 top teams are in our group.
Yep.
And I would rather be in Group F. I would. It's a crazy thing to say, but you go into every game knowing the expectations and knowing what you have to do.
Even
you
if
go into every game with Group D, you have no idea what you have to do.
Yeah.
You just go in with the concept of, well, obviously we have to get points.
Yeah.
But
Right.
And the way the format of this tournament is interesting because there's only there's 3 group stage matches.
Yep.
It's going to go quick, and now fortunately 16 teams are going to advance. So
Right.
yes, the top 2 automatically advance, but then they're going to go back and look at the 6 groups and pick the top 4 third place finishers.
Right.
Yes.
So it's going to be really tight, and I know it's going to come down to people are going to have to read between the lines because it's going to come down to the tiebreakers.
Yep.
Where in this format it'd be the same as like your typical.
But
FIFA
Especially in
tournament.
Group A, when you have 6 teams and you don't know which, how the point system is going to work. And
Yeah, I
those
kind
things.
of, I looked at that and I kind of was
Yeah.
scratching my head about that too, having one group with 6 teams, and I was like, boy, I don't know if I like that because they're still only playing 3 matches.
Yeah.
And it's I think determined by the seeding. I haven't gone into that much
Yeah.
detail yet, but it is maybe interesting how it worked out because you got both. Miami and Nashville in that group.
Yeah.
So then if you're one of those, maybe you look at it and if you're, say, New York City FC or Orlando or Philadelphia or Chicago, the other groups and their teams in that group, you might say, oh, it's unfair, but at least you look at it and you have the 2 kind of, expansion teams.
And side note, Nashville has been switched over to the Eastern Conference for the rest of this year.
Rest of the
Right.
season.
From the West.
They're over there now.
Yeah.
My confidence level, though, coming out of this group is very high. I think we're going to make it into the knockout
I agree.
area. I don't think
Yeah.
we're going to, I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I know David's being the pessimist here,
Well,
but
I'm always a pessimist.
I think I'm in the middle. I think, and a lot of people probably are in the middle because even if you think you have a strong team on paper, which obviously Minnesota United does, it's a lot of unknown. It's a lot of unknown, and and I don't like the fact that the tournament's being played in. I mean, maybe Orlando makes sense based on COVID factors and other things. But it's July in Orlando. It's hot and humid, and we know Minnesota United's history playing in hot weather in the South.
Let's talk about that for a second, because they're not going to be playing in games like during midday. It's all going to be morning and night games.
Yes, that's correct.
There's that. There will be 5 subs allowed.
Yep.
Right.
And you're allowed to have up to 23 players.
Yep.
Right.
So we have some depth on our
Do we
team.
have 23 players?
Yes, we do. I counted it out the other day.
Yeah, and
I made sure we had 23.
You can go into your reserve roster if you
So,
need to.
we have some depth on this team. Remember we talked about this coming in this year, is we got some depth.
Yeah.
We do, yes.
We did get some depth. So that helped us out a little bit.
And there's another thing about us that is beneficial, and this was brought up in the article from MLS.com that labeled us one of the top 6.
Yes.
Yep.
And that was that we know how to grind out a win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Win.
Well, our spine is so good.
Yeah. And it comes down to, I mean, if you read that was a good article on MLS.com. I read it when you pointed it out. But basically, if you read the first paragraph of that article, it basically starts by saying, before it even picks the teams, I think it starts by saying, okay, what are the recipe for success? 1, depth, Tony, you mentioned, and 2, like you're getting to, is defense, your back line.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's one of Minnesota's strong suits.
We know this tournament's going to be sloppy. And when you come into a sloppy tournament like this, defense is going to be a key thing. And we know we have a very good, if not great, defense.
Yeah, just look at that's a great point. Look at the return of, we talk about La Liga, Premier League, Bundesliga, those early matches. It is, it's not some of the best soccer you'll see. It's a little sloppy, which it should be. I mean, it's first game action in months.
Right.
So you might have those counterattack situations. So if you have a good attacking, midfield, like that could be an advantage. But then at the end of the day, if you can have the back line to stop those kind of things, that's probably what you need.
I would even call Minnesota's center back duo probably the best in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Ike and Boxy are so good.
I think, honestly, Ike, Boxy, and Tyler are that triangle.
Yeah.
I think it's the best.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. I don't think there's a better group.
What I think is going to happen is the group stage is going to be a slot fest. It's going to be a lot of crazy stuff happening, and teams with great defense are going to come out on top. Once we get into the knockout stage, you're going to see those teams start to become more to form of what they are.
Right, yeah.
And then we'll see what happens after that.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think, like, the number of draws, would 3 draws be enough to get you out of the into the knockout stage?
No.
I mean, even if you're talking about the 4 best third-place teams,
if you're talking about the other teams in the group, though, because if you have 3 draws, then you have to think about what the points totals of the other teams are.
That's true.
Then
I think 4 points.
4 points would be enough. I think. Yeah.
But
in our group, I think 4 points will.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us. That's a good segue. Let's maybe predictions for Minnesota United point total coming out of the group stage in their 3 matches. Like, what's a good number? I mean, I don't care if you're being optimistic or pessimistic. What's your prediction?
I'm going to go right off the bat. I'm going to say 5 points. I think we get 2 wins and a draw out of this damn thing.
So
7 points.
Oh, sorry, 7 points.
Seven.
Sorry.
I was just going to say this.
Yeah.
Sorry. 3 points, yeah.
I think we're going to do 9.
Wow, jeez.
Damn, the pessimist going in hot.
Flipped the script here.
I mean, again, I'm one of those people that likes to balance myself.
You went 180 degrees.
Honestly,
on that
I
one.
think I'm going to go into the tournament very concerned, but I think the only one I'm really concerned about is Sporting. But I think we can get 9.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I would be completely shocked if we do, but I think
before we get to you two, though, remember these points go into the regular season.
Right.
Yes, and that's another thing that
So we
mention.
want to get points.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't just want to get out of the group stage and into the knockout round. We want to get as many points as possible because that's going to help us out the rest of the year.
The flip side of that is so does everybody else, though.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which
right.
could make for an interesting tournament.
And it's nice, it's 3 matches. It's just like, and the way that MLS decided to do this, as far as these group stage points counting towards the regular season standings, considering the fact that Minnesota United started the season with 2 victories,
on the road.
On the
no less.
road,
Yeah.
you know that's we're in a good position, and so hopefully they can take advantage of that.
Right. Dave, go ahead with
Well,
your...
I mean, as optimistic as Dave was, I think I'm going to be a bit more optimistic. I think they're going to find a way to get 12 points out of these three.
How's that gonna happen?
I'm not sure how, but no.
Can you steal points in this? Is there
Yeah.
something to
No,
Can
steal?
you get a win and a draw in the same
I'm kidding.
game?
I'm torn. I'm not as optimistic as 9 points. I like that. I'm definitely going to put them on the board for 5. I think they can get 5 out of it, but I'm torn. As you guys were talking, I was torn between that 5 and 4 number. You know, because I was thinking, okay, there could be a potential loss in that against any one of those 3 teams.
right.
That's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
So you can end up with 0 out of 1 game. I definitely think there's a win there. That's 3, and then a draw. You would expect. So you know, I'm going to lean towards optimistic and say 5. They will not lose a game in the tournament, but they'll get a couple draws.
Okay.
Connor?
So this one was hard for me because I was looking at the matchups, and when you look at what Minnesota does against, like how they performed in the first 2 games this year, who they've got on their team, who the other players have got on their team, I think we're going to get a win against Real Salt Lake. I think that's our for sure win in that group. Colorado is probably the dark horse of dark horses in that group because they're either a really good or really bad team. I think we'll get a win against them, even though they've kind of turned over a new leaf under Robin Fraser.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
Yeah. But I think we'll win against them. Sporting KC is the wild card, but I think I'm going to lean with Sterling over there. I'm going to go with 9.
Wow.
I think
Nice.
we're
I'm not the only drunk one.
Sporting KC, that's another team that they're very deep. Yeah, they've got
Yeah.
a lot of talent on that
Well,
roster. And
add on to that, they've signed Alan Polito from Liga MX this year too, and that's really a big boost for Sporting Kansas City, and that's my only real doubt that we can beat Sporting Kansas City, but I think we're all right.
I just glanced down at the article, and just one of the highlighted names in that article was Luis Amarilla. You know, as pointing to one of Minnesota's strong suits, of course. So how many goals?
He's wearing the jersey.
There
Let's
you go.
mention David Sterling is wearing Amarilla's
So-
jersey today. So.
If we make it out of the group stage, he wins Golden Boot.
Okay,
There you go.
So that's so
That's
of
my
course
that's my
I would assume that these, you know, if these points count, goals scored during the group stage should count towards, you know,
They should, yeah.
goals scored during the regular season in the
think so.
MLS. Now, obviously, the season's going to be shortened. We don't know how short yet, but yeah, how many goals does he score in this tournament in 3 games in the group stage? Let's say, can he get?
I think
3?
he gets a goal a game
goal game
Yeah.
average
at least.
I'm going to love it if he gets a hat trick against like Salt Lake or Colorado or something like that.
Because
Well-
boy, it's been so long. How did he start the first 2 games with? How many? At least
So
2. Did
it was
he
a goal a game. He almost got 2 against San Jose, but he started off with 2, and then so he had that penalty kick against San Jose, and it was saved. But then Robin Lod got that goal off the deflection.
Yep.
So, a quick point, going off my simulation of FIFA 20 playing yesterday, Amarilla did have 3 goals in the game. So
Wow.
right.
Against who was the opponent?
I don't remember, but it was 3 goals.
It clearly shows you the potential.
He
there.
had some really
Right,
good he crossed into him, and he had some really good footwork there. It was great.
Oh yeah.
Before we get out of the tournament, guys, and move on to some other stuff, let's talk about one guy on the Loons that scares us a little bit going into this tournament. A guy who you think could play poorly, could come out of the box kind of sluggish. Somebody on our team that you think maybe isn't going to play up to what they should be playing. And I'm going to start it off right now, guys. I'm going to say a name. I've always said this. His name is Chase Gasper. And not because he's going to
I
play.
have a couple guys in my mind,
Not
but-
because I think he's going to play poorly. Because I think a tournament like this, with his fouling issues he's had in the past,
Yep.
can affect what happens on our
Later
defensive
on, yeah.
backfield. Especially if he gets a yellow card, or especially a red card. If he does something stupid, he hasn't played for 3 months.
Yep.
So
True.
we know how aggressive he is. So I'm a little concerned about Chase being over aggressive in this
I
tournament.
guess he's a good pick. That's
That's
not
gonna
who I
be-
thought you were going
Yeah,
for.
And it's going to be sloppy. So
Yeah. And I can only hope that maybe Adrian Heath has kind of seen that as a potential problem going into the tournament and worked with Chase to make sure he minimizes his fouling. Obviously, he has to put his attention on the entire team, but I think when you look at individual problems, that's definitely the weak link there.
As much as I think Chase is a great talent,
yeah,
one of his things is just being over-aggressive at times.
Right.
Same thing, let's go to another league totally, the NBA. Dennis Rodman. And not like Rodman and Chase are the same people, but Rodman was a great player, but there were times where he was over-aggressive and did things that were detrimental to the team. And I think Chase is that type of guy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's a great talent, but...
Yeah.
I go with Ozzy.
That's
Really?
actually who I was thinking about.
Because he's so important to the team.
Yeah.
You know, he is getting older, and these weird breaks can do weird things to people.
That's true.
When I think, and that's who I was going to go with as well, so we can keep this a little shorter, and what you brought up is true, and I think there was some concern coming into the regular season because of his lack of, he didn't have as much, I don't think his training was up to par. Now, granted, he's the old man of the team. He's 34 years old. But, he had to shake off a little rust, I think, going into the regular season, and now he's got to do that all over again.
I think if there's a guy, with that said, Tony, I agree with you about Chase. But I think just with the break, the fact that he didn't do a full preseason, the fact that he's just older, the fact that there's going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders to perform because, again, we have that triangle behind him of easily the best in the league.
Yep.
There's a lot on him to perform. I can see him coming out of the gates as just being low.
I mean, he is kind of the main cog in the middle there.
Right.
Yeah. He's what things kind of rotate around, and he's kind of a pivot guy, and if he's not up to speed, things break down pretty quick.
Yeah.
And you, especially with a guy like Jan next to him, who pushes forward, who's very quick, and can easily just all of a sudden vacate a space.
Yes.
I think he's going to be
Okay. Connor.
So first of all, I'm gonna have to totally disagree with Ozzy there. I think that Ozzy, with Ozzy's experience and with the way I've seen him play during games, he's so good at dribbling out of trouble. Okay. I think he's one of the people who's actually going to make it work for us in the tournament. I don't disagree with what you said, because if he comes out of this break not on top of his game, then yes, absolutely.
I was going to say, because you're disagreeing with the entire side of this table here,
right?
But I think I would like to say I just picked the easy answer and said, oh, he's the oldest guy or one of the older guys on the team. And
he is old, but I still think he's got a lot of skill in him.
Yeah, well, he does clearly.
I also agree with Chase, but if I had to pick another player that I think the most pressure is going to be on, it's got to be Robin Lod.
And that's who I thought Tony was going to be.
Yeah. I didn't want to go and placate you and go into your whole, Robin Lod thing.
Yeah, he came out and played okay in the first two games. I'm not going to badmouth him for the first two games, but we haven't really seen a lot of glimmers of hope from him since he got here.
And it's a shame because coming into this season, I know there's been a lot of opposition, and clear, based on his play last year, rightfully so. There's been a lot of, debate and worry about his performance and the fact that he's one of the higher paid players on the team. But there was a lot of optimism coming into this season because he had that whole off season. Yeah. He'd been with the team, and whether you believe the head coach or the rest of his teammates, they saw marketed improvement there in his game. And it's a shame that had to be stopped.
So I'm going to say, and I guess I don't necessarily not come to his defense, but he's never been a flashy guy.
No.
Yeah.
He's a utilitarian player. He goes out and does what he needs to do, and what he needs to do is not flashy.
No.
No,
So
he's not flashy.
It's not. I've been sufficiently happy with his performance in the 2 games. I was sufficiently happy with his performance last year too. I mean, he's just not that type.
Sometimes you were, sometimes you weren't.
Yeah.
But it was sufficient. It was like, okay, I get it. He's out there. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But he's the guy that you don't see. You don't see him score goals. You don't see him do a lot of assists.
He does kind of fly under
He's
the
the
radar.
guy like 2 passes back, or he's the guy, that's just kind of doing his work.
Well, he's a Finn.
What?
Is he Finnish?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
he's
a
Finnish.
Finn.
Yeah.
Finnish people aren't flashy.
No.
No. I'm
Scandinavians in
I'm
general
part
aren't
Finnish, even though you can't tell. But I'm also Italian, so that's why I'm flashy. But if you look at my mom's side of the family,
That's why you're.
none of those people are flashy people whatsoever.
I mean, Nels isn't flashy. I know he's not Finnish.
He's Norwegian.
But
Nels is
he's
shaking
still
his head right now.
Scandinavian.
Just everybody else.
Scandinavians just aren't flashy people.
No. They're not. They don't do flashy things. They just kind of sit back and kind of do what they're supposed to do.
I
and
mean,
that's
my
that.
wife's part Scandinavian. She's not flashy personality.
No.
It's just Scandinavians.
Before we before we get out
I'm
of
not
this,
being offensive.
I'm open. before we get out of this, guys, this is why I brought up the whole our the people we have behind those guys up front.
Yeah.
So if Lude goes out, we've got guys come in.
Yeah, we do.
We've got depth.
We do.
So
Speaking of depth, I know a lot of people are waving his flag, but because of the 5 substitutions, because of the conditions, the heat, do you think we're going to be able to see some players like, say, Tommy Chacon step up and make
I
a
think so,
mark in these
because
games?
one thing we didn't mention before is that when you get the 5 substitutions, you only get 3 chances to use those five substitutions. So you have to if you want to use all 5 players, then you have to be very efficient with them.
Yeah,
But-
I think
So
there's
maybe I think that'll work in Tommy Chacon's favor. I think.
before we get out of this, though, we know Adrian Heath's problems with using subs.
Yes.
So
We do.
having 5 extrapolates that problem immensely.
So
Yeah.
we might you might have to see him going against the grain or against his recent not
I would
recent
hope-
his
I would hope
entire
so.
trend, because the one thing that if you haven't been watching some of the European games, you get a little leeway in the sense that you can make any number of substitutions at halftime. Yes, it's true you only get 3 other periods, but so you might have to, as a coach, say, okay, we're going to make some changes at halftime just for the player's fitness.
But Adrian's been terrible about subbing
halftime,
people in at
Yeah.
halftime or any other
Yeah,
time.
he doesn't like to
makes
do it.
subs late. He doesn't do.
He does.
again.
Yeah.
So that's the tournament. We know quickly that July 11th will be their first game,
Right.
Which is a Saturday,
That's
which
what
is good.
Zagoda reported.
Zagoda reported he heard that from Miller. Miller told him that.
Okay.
We don't know who we're playing yet, but it's July 11th, so we know
Right.
that for a fact. We're going to keep on soccer a little bit. We're going to turn it, though. Soccer's coming back, guys, but MLB is not
That's the
coming
second
back.
time you've done
I
that,
know,
by the way.
MLS,
Yeah, now
MLB.
it's backwards.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball is having problems coming back. And we talked about this, I think, in the podcast a while ago, is that baseball and soccer are the 2 sports during the summertime that you have the option to watch.
Right.
Yep.
With potentially no baseball this year, guys, I think it's a good thing for soccer coming back.
100%.
Tournament,
Huge.
Yeah.
and then whatever. You're going to get a lot of fans switching over to MLS soccer
Yeah,
from
because
baseball.
they're going to
Yeah.
want to watch sports, and without baseball, they're going to be like, "Oh, what can we watch?" And they'll watch soccer, and who knows? Some
Right.
of them might just get hooked.
The only baseball fans we won't get are Trump supporters.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, because they didn't watch soccer in
And
the
do we
first
care?
place.
I don't know.
It is amazing to me, though, guys, that soccer, NHL, basketball, all signed agreements to get back in the game.
Right.
Baseball is the only place that they have so many
that's
flipping
because
issues.
it's a shit show.
And
It is a shit show.
so at the very least, it's probably at this point, as we sit here on June 20th, and it's safe to assume that MLS is back before baseball. Even if baseball
They
does
will.
come
Without
back,
doubt.
it's going. They're going to be back before, obviously.
And even
so-
if baseball comes back, their new plan is 50 to 60 games.
Which
That's not a season.
And
That's not. It's less than half a season.
It's a huge. It's like a triple asterisk season. I think I mean, as a baseball fan, I'd love to see the MLB come back. Obviously, like everybody else that's a fan, but it will be very interesting because if you're playing 50 or 60 games, it's a free for all, and they're going to have expanded playoffs, and like a lot can happen. In 60 games, like because your teams like was it the Nats last year who won the World Series? They started out in the first 20, 30 games of the season. They were awful. They wouldn't have made it in this format. So it really throws everything up into the air.
But the point I want to bring up is we've seen other leagues get their shit together and get something figured out, get back on the field, back on the court. Baseball has not done that.
Nope.
So there's a lot of fans who are pissed off, not only at the players but the owners as well. And so I could see a lot of fans saying, well, I'm done. I mean, the strike in '94 was a big... They lost a lot of fans then. It took them forever to get the fans back.
We talked about how I gave up on baseball for several years.
Forever to get fans back. They don't play this year because of their problems.
Right?
Will you get fans back? I don't know. Will you get a lot of fans that don't been to soccer? I think so.
I think that they should bring back T-ball.
T-ball.
Just get rid of the pitcher.
Yeah.
Get an extra outfielder. Put the ball on a tee.
Yep.
And see what happens.
You get rid of the umpires that way too.
Yeah.
You could.
More social distancing that way.
Or you could just bring back steroids. I mean,
That's true.
That might happen.
We could do both.
I watched that 30 for 30 Long Gone Summer just the other night. And that was really interesting. And that they made a point is that baseball was suffering for years, and I mean that helped it put it back on the map. That season, 1998 season, just because there was so much excitement with those two players. But
you have right now you got two greedy sides fighting each other, whereas you had, especially soccer, the players came out and said, hey, we're cool with not losing a little bit of money now, just get back on the pitch, which I was like, fantastic, whatever. So let's take a break.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back. We're gonna have
beers.
We're gonna have a little history from Connor,
Right.
and then we're gonna talk about some new rules in New York for dating. Parentheses.
Another dating one?
Well, we talked about it on last podcast, and actually
true.
I think they listened last time because some of the things they're talking about is what Dave brought up last time.
clearly listened to- they
And
clearly
New
listened to
York
the
is
podcast.
taking
This I gotta hear.
things to a whole new level.
Yeah, they are. It's crazy. So we'll be back from Alloy Brewing in a couple minutes. Back at Alloy. Took a little break, got some more beers. I'll start this time because I got my favorite from Alloy. Is the Cherry Lime Wit. It's a wheat beer, cherry lime. Enough said. The stuff is fantastic. I'm probably going to pick up a crowler of it. And some crowlers of other things. I'm probably going to spend like $50 here when I leave.
I probably will too.
Because I love this place so much.
I probably will too. Starting it, that's one of the crowlers I had a few weeks ago. You can't go wrong with that. It's pretty refreshing, especially in the summer.
Connor, what'd you grab?
So, as most everybody knows, I mainly stick to IPAs, but I branched out a little bit and went with the one that Sterling had in part one, the What Happened Bourbon Cream Ale.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, you weren't kidding, David. That is delicious.
Right.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's very smooth, in my opinion. It's and it's not overly weedy.
No.
It's. I think it's absolutely delicious.
Dave?
Yeah, and speaking of branching out, so did I. So I kind of took up Connor's ship there, and I went with an IPA myself. And actually, I went with the Rivet IPA, and because I wanted to find something I haven't had here, the many times we've been here, even what podcasts or not. And it's their flagship IPA, and it's not disappointing. It's delicious, and it's interesting. They describe it as relatively light. It's definitely hoppy. The IBUs are way up, but it's all packs a little punch too at 7.1%.
David?
So I went opposite of Connor and went IPA.
Whoa!
I got the Baby Boom Double Dry Hop New England IPA.
Holy jeez.
So apparently it's called that because they've had a lot of babies born in the last few months.
Yes.
I like it. It's really hoppy, but I don't know that it's actually that hoppy. It's just that I followed the cream ale up with this, so it tastes really hoppy.
You need like a cracker before you had it.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's definitely a pretty typical New England. IBUs are 40. Alcohol, I don't remember what that was.
7.9. It looks
Jeez.
like.
Wow.
7.9.
So I'm just
hitting up
I'm
everything
just
today, aren't
adding,
you?
So it's like this side of the table, we've kind of been on the common themes, but he had to one up me with the.
It's like we haven't been here for a while. It's weird.
I know. It's good though. I'd recommend it if you like New England's. I'd recommend it.
Nice to know somebody's still representing IPAs, even though I abandoned ship a little bit.
I love the fact, like, before we started this podcast, if you would have told me I had a DDH any IPA, I'd be like, what language are you talking? Like, I seriously wouldn't even known what you're talking about. But yeah, it's really interesting getting into all these craft beers.
I will say this. I mean, Nels is here. Nels and I were like the craft beer guys. When craft beers came out, Nels and I were like the guys. And you guys,
I personally was a Miller Lite guy.
Yeah, exactly. You and
like
Johnny were like, I don't give a shit. You guys and your fancy beers.
Yeah.
They started doing this podcast. Now you kind of gotten into it.
I love it.
And even Johnny with Jenny now. I mean, Johnny has gotten into craft beer.
And I haven't abandoned the macro brews of the Millers and Coors and all that.
Yeah.
But I find myself, if I'm going to the store knowing that I want to get a 12-pack of Miller Lite, I always find myself picking up a 4-pack or 6-pack of a craft beer too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nels, what are you having, by the way, right now?
Same as you, just the raspberry.
The raspberry, what happened? All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice
There you
little
go.
twist on it.
All right.
Is that good?
I like it.
Yeah.
I like a good fruity beer.
Yeah. I bet you do.
Wait a minute, what does that mean?
Nothing. No comment.
It's starting to fill up here too. And we started this right at their opening at 12 o'clock. So we were one of the first people in here. But now it's the patio and the tap room are starting to
the
fill
parking
up.
lot's pre-packed.
No dogs barking yet, though. I haven't heard a dog.
I know, certain, when breweries first started opening for patio service, they had to maybe have restrictions on, guests under 21 and pets as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still the case
Well, I
here or
know,
not.
what's it called? Invictus.
Yes, they just opened it up a little bit more.
They did. At first, they were saying nobody under the age of, I think it was.
It might have been 21. If
I
not,
think it was 18.
Okay. Yeah.
And now they said,
all ages.
come one, come all.
Yeah.
The other thing I should probably say is that every brewery is different in terms of what their reservation systems, what they've got going on. So please check their Facebook or their website before you go there. I know this place has reservations. On the flip side of that, I know Eyre and 10K in Anoka and Eyre in Elk River, it is show up. If there's a table open, you can sit there.
Yeah.
And that's that.
And
I know with Lupulin, I was there a couple weeks ago. You could go in on a moment's notice and buy crowlers and growlers, but in order to get a seat, you did have to make a reservation.
Yeah.
And I will say this, at least for me, like I said, this is my first time, whether we're talking patio or dining in, this is my first time. And I guess, I don't know if other people feel this way, but kind of coming into, I think it was June 1st, I felt a little bit hesitant, especially with the reservation systems and the limited capacity. Yeah. And I mean, I think the bottom line is, like you made a point, just go to the website, see what their deal is, go to the Facebook. Yeah. And I think here's the risk, I mean, all the breweries we go to, the people are so friendly. That is, I mean, no exception here, some of the friendliest people we know. If you showed up today, and they'd be happy to serve you and help you and put you at a spot, but the risk you run is because of the limitations. If they're already at 50% capacity, there's nothing you can do.
And it's all about how safe you feel, too.
Yeah.
If you feel safe coming out, then come out. If you don't, then don't. Pick up a growler, a quick crowler, sit in your driveway and drink, like we've been doing for the past 3 months.
Right.
Without the car running.
Exactly right. So, I'm going to switch over to Connor.
Yeah. All right. Because it's history time, isn't it? And cue the intro.
And now it's time for Connor Ennis and his look back in Minnesota soccer history.
That intro is so cool. Like I think it sounds like the intro to a murder mystery. It's awesome.
Yeah, I did that.
I did that because I randomly brought up the concept of doing an old-timey radio show to pass the time as we didn't have soccer.
Right.
And of course that was a joke mostly, and no one really agreed with it anyway, so that was a good thing.
That's my voice.
I mean, I think if COVID had hit, we probably would have been all in. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I decided to fit the music in somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we will start off, gentlemen, and ladies who are listening, with June 13th of 1978. Unfortunately, this is not a good start, because in 1978, the Kicks lose to the New York Cosmos 4-2, which, by the way, I think that was that the day of the record-setting crowd at the Met Stadium?
Could have
when
been.
Pele.
Well, Pele was
came to-
playing for the Cosmos, so I
Yeah,
bet you it was.
Might be.
And was that a record then at the last season of TCF Bank? Did they end up breaking that record?
Yeah, they
think
did.
so, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
against, was it
was
LA
over
Galaxy?
50,000.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And I mean, of course, they wouldn't have come close to breaking that record without Zatlin, but
Right.
I've seen
Even-
stories of the parking lot outside of Met Stadium, though, and it was freaking nuts.
yeah.
But that was also the Beach Boys concert, right?
Was it?
Oh, did
And
they?
there was a concert
I
after
think
that.
you're
Could have been,
right,
yeah.
you're right. There was a
Oh.
hook. There was a
Yeah.
hook to get him in as well.
I did
I
not
don't
know
know if it was
that.
Beach
Wow.
Boys, but it was a concert.
Oh, it was Beach Boys, then, yeah, 50,000.
Yeah.
I
Beach
can't
Boys,
confirm
everybody's
or
gotta go
deny
see
Beach Boys, but you're right about the concert afterwards. Yeah.
I still stand in line for a Beach Boys concert.
I would too.
Moving on to June 13th, 1979, the Kicks lose to the Atlanta Chiefs 5-2. Then we move on to June 13th, 1981. The Kicks win at the Dallas Tornado 2-1.
Okay, Dallas Tornado works.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
I think it works.
And maybe like it's a rich history. Just real quick, I just wonder. Like it seems like, and maybe we were just talking about that huge, the attendance record that they set. But it seems like soccer in the United States in the late '70s, early '80s was a thing. It was
Yeah.
fairly
Yeah.
popular. But somewhere between the mid '80s and the mid '90s, before MLS started, there was a drop off. Am I
Do you,
just imagining
do you want to know
that?
my theory about the whole 70s and early 80s soccer phenomenon? It's because you had a lot of people coming out of the 60s into the 70s. They wanted something new. They wanted something fresh that wasn't American per se. They wanted to be in a new kind of world type of deal.
Yeah.
And soccer for them was kind of this new thing where everything was kind of open and free, and soccer was this new thing. And then we got into the 80s, and of course, what did the 80s do? We go back to business as
Football.
usual, and we kind of go back to the whole.
So you're blaming Ronald Reagan?
I'm not blaming
I
Reagan.
was just going there. I was just going there. with
You and
that.
I talked about Reagan. I texted. I'm not blaming Reagan for it. I'm blaming society as a whole.
You got back to your conservative values.
Exactly.
Of
So
you're
football.
blaming
I'm not blaming Reagan.
I mean, I don't care.
I liked
No.
I liked Reagan.
I just had to bring that up. But I love the rich history of soccer in the
Oh,
state.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Because people don't realize how rich the history is in
Yeah.
Minnesota. It goes all the way back to 1976. And, excuse me. So it has, the beer got to me. Dave's putting on his mask.
Sorry for the distraction. But in
Sorry, guys.
these times, we can't help it.
But yeah, we've had, Tony Sana played for the Thunder. Ray Hudson played for the Strikers.
Ray Hudson. That guy's from the Ghostbusters.
I think that's correct.
Is it?
Yeah, I just think, like, if you're just, let's say, I mean, I know there's a lot of our listeners, for example, and supporters have been into soccer in this state for a long time, but I mean, let's say you were one of those fans that just got into the Loons with the MLS in the last 3 years,
Right.
man, there's so much you can go back and look at.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
Oh,
great
yeah,
to do
yeah.
that.
All right, so we're going to move on to June 13th of 1984, when, this is an interesting one, the Strikers win a friendly against the Glasgow Rangers 5-2.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. No kidding.
Did they
They killed him.
Do we know if we play here or there?
They played here.
Wow.
What year is that?
1984.
Right, my
It was the one year the Strikers were in the NASL before they went indoor.
So Scottish people have always sucked at soccer?
I guess.
Bye-bye, Scottish fans of this podcast.
I mean, I'm Scottish.
Yeah.
I accept it. I suck at soccer. So.
Move all the way forward now to 1998, June 13th. The Thunder win against the Raleigh Flyers 5-2. Which, by the way, the Raleigh Flyers 3 years later turned into the Raleigh Capital Express, which I thought that would be kind of cool.
Raleigh Flyers. No.
Well, it's near
Oh,
Kitty Hawk.
Yeah, Kitty Hawk. Yeah,
North
okay.
Carolina.
Tony, what year was it? This will be a quick hitter too. What year was it that we, and I know I'm say we because the first time I went up and watched Minnesota professional soccer was with you up in Blaine. What year would that have been when we first went into the National Sports Center to watch?
Was that 98 or 99? Because it was against LA. Because
Galaxy.
Colby Jones was playing.
Yeah.
It was an exhibition against the
LA
LA Galaxy.
It was still the Galaxy.
And I can't think of
but it
was
would have
98
been in
or
that
99.
time frame. That's
Yeah.
why when you brought
Yeah.
that up, Connor,
Yeah.
I thought of that.
Okay. Because, that's when Kobe Jones was still around. And not even Landon Donovan was here yet.
No.
In 1998, I thought soccer was the shittiest sport on the planet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, believe me, my first time up at the National Sports Center back then, I had very little interest in the sport, but it opened my eyes.
It was cool
what
to be
it
up there
was.
watching soccer.
It
It was
was,
cool to see
yeah.
somebody like Colby Jones play.
Yeah, even I knew at that point. I mean, in 1998, soccer for me. I mean, I played in middle school, and soccer was on my radar as a sports fan, but I really didn't get into it. I think I brought it up many podcasts ago. In 1998 World Cup, I didn't even know what was going on until the final. But so that was part of the eye-opening part of it, because I knew, even as a non-soccer fan, I knew, hey, LA Galaxy, that's a team. That's you got some players in that team, and I wanted to check it out. So.
See, the famous team when I was living over in the UK, the famous team over there was DC United. Everyone had heard of DC United over there.
Was that when Freddie Adu was on the team?
That was even before that.
Really?
That was when Marco Echeverri and all those.
Were they one of the inaugural teams in the MLS?
Yeah, so they were the dynasty before the Galaxy became their dynasty.
Hold on. Before we go to the next one, we do have dogs barking or doing something.
Oh, that's a good sign.
I mean,
yeah.
it sounds like he's getting.
It's a new tradition of ours, isn't it?
It is a new tradition of ours.
And now, last of June 13th, 2015, the United lose to the Fort Lauderdale Strikers 3-2.
Strikers.
Moving on
Ripped off our team,
to June 14th, 1980. The Kicks lose to the Toronto Blizzard 2-1.
That makes sense.
Oh, I like this one. 2000. Thunder win the second round U.S. Open Cup match against Mexico SC 7-0. Which, by the way, I tried all I could to find details on Mexico SC. There are none.
Mexico SC, I mean,
Well, it had to be
it's
U.S.
too vague.
team.
It's way too vague.
I mean,
Yeah.
where would they be from?
I tried
San
looking up
Diego,
their.
maybe?
I tried looking up the league, and I couldn't find any
That's
details
weird.
in the league either.
Huh.
It was
a
like
bunch of,
USASA or something like that.
A bunch of scrub players, maybe? I don't know. Semi-pros?
Yeah, maybe.
And then June 14, 2017, United lose in the fourth round of the U.S. Open Cup at Sporting Kansas City 4-0. Which I remember that one. That one was
Bullshit.
horrible.
Yes, I remember that.
June 15th, 2010, the Stars win first round match in the U.S. Open Cup against the KC Athletics 4-2.
Hey.
I can actually say that I remember that game.
Do you really? Wow.
Yes.
And you know what?
That was the first U.S. Open Cup game I ever went to.
It was
You
the
know
first
what?
U.S. Open Cup game the United ever played in, as the Stars at least, but yeah.
And the Athletics makes sense because Kansas City was the Athletics baseball before they moved to Oakland.
That's right. Yeah. I have an Oakland one later
Little
on,
baseball
too.
history.
That's way over my head.
Sorry.
Then on the
No,
flip-
it's good.
Then on the flip side of that, 2016, United lose in extra time of the fourth round of the U.S. Open Cup against Sporting Kansas City 2-1. And the game was played here in Blaine
Yeah.
when Minnesota United were still at Blaine. Moving on to June 16th, 1979. The Kicks lose at the Dallas Tornado, 2-0. Then 1984, the Strikers lose a shootout against the San Diego Sockers after playing to a 3-3 draw.
The Sockers.
Yep.
Okay.
Once again, for people who don't know, it's spelled Sockers.
Great team name, marketing
Right.
department.
1999, the Thunder win a shootout against the Milwaukee Rampage after playing to a 1-1 draw.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that for a second.
Wait, what year was that?
1999.
Sterling, you're from Wisconsin. Is there a lot of rampaging in Milwaukee?
Whenever there's a Packers game, they're always in a hurry to get to the
always
game.
rampaging in Wisconsin.
Okay.
If you attempt to steal anyone's cheese,
Oh,
there's rampage.
Or beer.
maybe they were named after the video game Rampage from the 80s. Was that made in Milwaukee?
I couldn't tell you that.
I couldn't
Nels,
tell ya.
do you know anything about this?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
And then lastly, for June 16th, 2007, the Thunder draw against the Miami FC Blues. 1-1. Sorry.
The Blues?
The Miami FC Blues.
Come on. Is there a blues scene in Miami?
It was 2007.
Yeah.
Is there
I
a
had
blues
season tickets that year. I don't remember that.
Really? It
Is
might have
there-
been an away game.
Why do I don't remember that team at all.
Well, is there a blues scene in Miami, though?
I can't answer
I
that definitively,
can't
but
imagine there would
Maybe there are a
I
couple
wouldn't
jazz
think
clubs
so.
down there. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think that's a good
Maybe
name
it's
for a team.
blues like Azure water.
Okay,
Miami
maybe.
Cruz Azul.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. Moving on to June 17th, 1978. The Kicks lose a shootout against the Seattle Sounders after playing to a 0-0 draw.
That's a good name.
Yeah. Still around today.
Still a good name.
Yep. 1980, the Kicks win against the Tampa Bay Rowdies 4-1. 1981, Kicks lose against the Vancouver Whitecaps 2-0. And another new one here, 2000. Thunder win against the Cincinnati Riverhawks
Okay.
4-0.
Riverhawk.
Well, they're on a
like that
river. They probably
They
have hawks
are.
down there, so that works.
2010, the Stars win at the Portland Timbers 1-0. 2012, the Stars lose at the Tampa Bay versus the Tampa Bay Rowdies here in Blaine 2-1, and then lastly 2017, United lose at Real Salt Lake 1-0. I remember that game. That was awful.
Speaking of our group
All right.
in MLS,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good lord.
This is a fun day here. June 18th, 1976, the Kicks' inaugural season. They win at the Washington Diplomats 3-0.
That works. Yeah. Diplomats works.
2011, the Stars draw against FC Edmonton 1-1. 2014, United lose in the fourth round of the U.S. Open Cup at Sporting Kansas City 2-0.
How many more are we going to have with Sporting Kansas City beating our ass?
There's a bunch.
Jeez.
Before 2019, I'm
Good
pretty sure they
Lord.
owned us in the U.S. Open Cup.
Really?
2018, United lose in the round of 16 of U.S. Open Cup at the Houston Dynamo 1-0.
Oh.
Which is...
Did we play there, though? I think we probably
We played there exactly
Yeah,
a year after, in 2019, when they won 3-2 at the Houston Dynamo.
we suck playing Houston.
It's Houston. No one wants to play there. No one wants to visit there.
The weather's terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And then you see how full the Dynamo Stadium is.
Exactly.
So, like,
As I saw on Twitter today, I think it was actually yesterday, but I saw it today. Somebody was commenting about a tweet about the Dylan Wolpers Cup.
Yeah.
I saw
And
that.
They said,
yeah.
they said, hey, Houston's practicing social distance before it was necessary.
Maybe it was Dylan Whopper's birthday that I saw. It was either the anniversary
Well,
of the game or his birthday. It was one of the two things that I saw.
Well, it's
recently.
both, isn't it? Because it was his birthday
Oh,
on the
that's
day
right.
of,
Yes, okay, that's true.
And nobody ever... Again, we talked about Houston before. Nobody goes to those damn games.
Now, but I will say, about Houston, I've been there several times. I had a friend that lived there for quite a while, and The problem with Houston, yes, it's the weather is terrible. It's hot, it's humid, and you're a bit landlocked when you're in Houston. I mean, you can drive an hour to the coast, but you're landlocked when you're in Houston, and the city is so big and so spread out that it gets a bit difficult to navigate. And then there's certain areas that are nice in Houston, but man, it's...
Sam Houston is rolling his grave right now. Let me tell you that much.
So what I guess I meant to say is not all Houston is bad. I'm not writing it
We're
off.
not saying Houston's bad. It's just they don't like soccer.
Yeah. Even though we offered them their own team, they moved from San Jose to be there.
Yes.
That's right.
June 19th, 1976, the Kicks lose at the Boston Minutemen 5-2.
Okay.
That's fitting.
That's
I actually like that.
very
That's a good game.
I like that too.
Redcoats would be a bad name.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
Oh, that would be horrible. 1977, the Kicks lose versus the LA Aztecs 3-2. I think I've asked this before, but are there Aztecs in LA?
I don't.
I mean, maybe Descendants.
Maybe.
Descendants, but again, it's Aztecs, LA. Come on.
Yeah. Then here's a new one that I have never said before. The 1978, June 19th, the Kicks lose at the Oakland Stompers 1-0.
That
New team.
Stompers.
I feel like that's generic, but not generic. I've never heard the name Stompers, but it's still
again, marketing wise, come on, come up with something better than that.
yeah.
I wonder what they were thinking of. Usually you can kind of connect it, right?
Yeah,
But
because I
it's
know
like-
for a while the San Jose earthquakes did turn into the Golden Bay earthquakes for a while, but
Oklahoma drillers, drill for oil.
Edmonton are actually the drillers.
Edmonton?
Edmonton were the drillers.
Do
Why?
they have oil there?
They do. Yeah, up in that area. They
It's not
certainly do,
known
yeah.
for oil.
What's that?
It's not known for oil.
Why are they called the
Yes,
Edmonton
it is.
Oilers though?
That period,
then?
or that area up in
that's
between.
I suppose. Yeah, you're right.
Then moving on to 1999, the Thunder win against the Indiana Blast 2-0. And then 2010, the Stars lose against the Portland Timbers 2-0. Now today, it's today, everybody, which is the 20th of June, 1979, the Kicks win against the New York Cosmos 3-2. We've never lost on this day, by the way. The Kicks win in 1981 against the Atlanta Chiefs 3-2. And then lastly, 1998, the Thunder win against the Cincinnati Riverhawks 3-2.
Wait, did they just have 3 games in a row?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they won't
This
lose.
is a pretty interesting day.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they won't lose today in 2020.
No, it
true.
won't.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're still victorious on June 20th.
Yes.
It works.
The streak continues.
And ladies and gentlemen, there's your history for the day. There
we go.
everybody.
All right.
So let's get on some fun stuff, guys, because I have two stories for you. One has to deal with some new things in New York about their with COVID and relationships. The other one has to deal with soap operas.
Ooh.
So you guys want to go with soap operas or New York first?
I'll leave it up to you guys.
I feel like maybe we should go with the soap opera first.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
let's soap opera.
end with a bang.
Yeah.
Now, side note, Dave and I used to watch Days of Our Lives.
Religiously
Back in
regularly,
college.
every day. And it's not something we started, was it freshman year that we started
Yeah,
that in
yeah.
college? And it's not going, let me just preface this by saying, going into that year, if you would have told me that I would watch a soap opera, I would have said, no way, you're crazy. Absolutely not. But guess what? When you have when you're living in a dorm, you're living on campus, you have classes in the morning, classes in the afternoon, and you have nothing but free time in the middle of the day with no money. What do? You go back to your dorm room and turn on the TV.
Days of Our Lives.
So, Days of Our Lives was my mom's favorite
Yeah.
soap opera.
It was my favorite soap
That was
opera
good
too.
for a while.
I've watched a lot of it.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted to, just because it was on.
Yeah.
So,
I was a
Wow.
big Stefano fan back in the day.
I kind of got lost when Marlena got the devil.
Yeah.
What's the
Well, whatever happened to her. I don't remember
something
this.
about demon.
Yeah, well, this is
Possessed or
possessed. probably.
Possessed. What was it? I don't remember what it was about. But
Did she just think she was possessed?
no,
or-
she really was. Like her eyes would even change. If I remember.
What was the one that was after Days of Our Lives?
That was Sunset Beach.
Oh yes, and was that T. Baster?
That one's I never
That
heard of.
was T. Baster.
Yes,
that was T. Baster.
Yes, that I couldn't. That
was
plot line.
T-Baster.
was
Okay, we lost
amazing.
Sterling. Sterling's gone.
So
He's
fortunately, most of our listeners probably won't know what we're talking about.
That was T. Baster. That was the whole premise. Was she? What was the deal? Her rival was going to impregnate her rival
You
with
can't make this.
something from another
really
guy with a turkey baster, and she was saying the new dad's name is going to be T. Baster. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, like I said, you
So
can't make
T.
it up.
Baster was a big thing
Oh,
for us.
man.
Yes. T. Baster.
All right.
Yeah, if you would have asked me if we were going to talk about soaps today, then I would have said no way.
I mean, we just needed a preference it with the fact that we are qualified to talk
Can
about
I
soap
clarify?
operas.
I did not hang out with them in college.
Well, the funny thing is now, since we went to La Crosse to see you once, and there was a what do you call it? The parties where they wear the white shirts,
The white shirt, t-shirt parties, yeah.
graffiti party.
Yeah.
And I had some girl write on my shirt that Stefano rules on there from Days of Our Lives because she likes Stefano too.
Because Tony, you must have just talked your ear off about how much
I'm
you
sure
love
I
Days of
did.
Our Lives.
I'm sure I did. Stefano was a cool guy. But no, Days of Our Lives is not the soap opera. It's The Bold and the Beautiful, guys.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Okay.
About that one.
And the headline is The Bold and Beautiful are going to employ blow-up dolls for love scenes.
Okay, first it's sex dolls in Korea, now it's blow up dolls and soaps. Okay.
Now, the head writer for CBS soap opera The Bold and the Beautiful said the show will be using blow-up dolls as a stand-in for love scenes amid the COVID pandemic. Because, as we know, these shows have had to go offline for a while.
Right.
Now they're coming back. And if you watch soap opera, there's a lot of loving going on. There's
There
this
is,
guy and this girl, and then there's there's a lot of things happening. So that's part of the deal. There's shows resuming filming this month that are shutting down amid the coronavirus. Bradley Bell, the soap's head writer and producer, said measures are being taken to keep the cast and crew safe. When reviewing the scripts, we started taking out all the romantic scenes, and the scripts just fell flat.
No kidding.
We put our heads together, trying to figure out a way to make these scenes work without breaking the 8-foot distancing rule. We brought out a doll we used years ago as a corpse. So they used this doll as a corpse, now it's a love doll.
Take it to it.
We posed it,
That's
and it was
just creepy on a whole new level.
It was very convincing. It's a great doll, and we're using her with hair and makeup as a stand-in to match some of our leading ladies. He said the show currently has only one blow-up doll, but producers might look into obtaining more artificial actors if the shots turn out well. So they'll obtain more.
I will
of them.
say this. I mean, when you think of blow-up doll, I mean, you think I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't think it's a blow-up doll. I think it's more of a mannequin type of thing.
Mannequin is
Dave,
where I was
once
going.
again,
because-
playing devil's advocate
Yes, because
here.
you look at I'm going back to South. I'm going back to South. I'm going back to South Korean soccer. Now, if you were watching a broadcast of those South Korean soccer games where they had the sex dolls in the stands, you might have thought they were real people from a distance. I mean, they looked very realistic. So that's all.
At a
Well,
glimpse, maybe.
And this is TV now, so they can do some editing. He says we're going to see how it works. We may be investing in more dolls and male dolls as well. We're searching websites and combing Hollywood to see what's available.
So
Now, I just wonder if they would have even had that idea without the South Korean football incident.
So we may be employing a lot of dolls in the future love scenes.
And,
Bell?
okay, I love how they use the word employing here.
Right.
Employing a lot
'Cause
of
they-
dolls here.
So now he also said the production team is also looking into other measures, including using the real-life spouses of the actors as stand-ins for kissing and other intimate scenes. So people will live with them and wherever.
So now they can get paid to make out with
Yeah.
their spouse.
Right.
They'll be tested for COVID, and we'll make sure it's safe, and the husband and wife are comfortable kissing. And so we may have some very hot kissing on the show. With camera tricks and editing, it will appear as though it's a leading man with his leading lady.
Well,
So
yes.
they're going to the next level.
okay.
Because
so
then you
that's-
don't have to have contact with somebody outside your household. And
Yeah,
that's
exactly
important,
right. Exactly
obviously.
right.
Yeah.
So love dolls and people within their whole,
So
system.
why don't they just move this to Florida where they can just interact normally?
I don't know. Because it's L.A., baby. It's L.A.
But
No.
so how old is Bold and the Beautiful? How long
Oh,
is it
shit.
now?
That's been out for.
Like 40, 50 years?
Oh, yeah.
50 years, maybe?
It's one of the oldest, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It makes sense. There's no way they're going to have a soap opera without sex.
no.
No.
Can't
And
happen.
this might be a new thing now. I mean, even after COVID, they might be like, well, the leading lady doesn't want to be in a sex scene. Well, they blame the bullet doll.
Again, the improvements, our lives can get better coming
The
out of
improvements
this.
that are
There's no
happening.
doubt about it. I mean,
All around the world.
We've touched on working from home and all that stuff. Well, there you go.
I feel like we need to bring in the company that provided the sex dolls in Korea and get them working with Bold and the Beautiful.
Have you, bring up a topic here. Have you guys seen the movie that Matt Stone and Trey Parker made, the guys who made South Park, called Orgasmo?
No.
Have you guys seen
Years ago,
Orgasmo?
I
You seen
couldn't
Orgasmo?
reference it.
Okay. So the main character in this, he's a Mormon. And they get him into porn somehow. But he doesn't want to have sex. So every time a sex scene comes up, they call him a stunt cock. That's what they do. Say stunt cock.
What's
And-
even the point?
Well, that's the point. He's a good actor, but he doesn't want to do the sex part.
So he didn't want to do it.
So they call him a stunt
Okay.
cock.
That's
All
kind of
right.
That's kind of like the episode of Friends where Joey is
The butt double.
The butt double.
Yeah.
Because who was that? That Pacino?
Al Pacino.
Yeah, didn't want to do this shower
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing of the whole movie is, so at some point down the road, they call it a stunt cock. And of course, it's Matt Stone. I think it's Matt Stone who's the main guy. He's a white guy. Call it a stunt cock, and it's a black guy. And the director goes, "Do you see a problem with this? We can't have Kim come in."
Right.
He's like, I don't have a problem with that, So they call him this, So maybe that's where we're going to go. We're going to call them stunt relationship people that come in and do these scenes on the thing.
So it all comes back to Dr. Fauci and the risk.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
determine what your risk level is.
That's a good segue for my next story.
Yes.
I've been saving up for this one.
NYC.
Better be good.
Now, if you listen to our last podcast, we talked about this a little bit, about the things we need to do with COVID, with the dating and all the things that go on with dating.
Right, yeah.
So I'm looking at your sheet right now. It does look like a bunch of rules and regulations here.
Yeah. So New York City came out with the whole guidelines called Safer Sex and COVID-19.
And you can check this out, nyc.gov. This is not something.
This is not something I made up. The whole thing. I've highlighted some things that are preferable. I did not go through the whole thing. There are some things in here that I'm not going to talk about.
Let's just say it pushes our rating
the envelope
way above.
it's not.
Yeah.
So, of course, can you have sex? Yes, you can, but here's some tips how to do it. Have sex only with people close to you. And it says,
Only people close to you. Okay.
and here's the close one. It says,
Family?
underline, you are the safest sex partner. You are. You are.
Oh, man.
I don't believe that's
Wait,
sex.
me?
Yes, you
No,
did.
just kidding.
You are the safest.
I know what you're saying.
That's what it says. The next safest sex partner is someone you live with. Okay?
Just not somebody elderly.
Really?
And
Well,
hopefully
we'll
not
get into that.
related.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
Hopefully not related.
Yeah, and related, yes.
Well,
I didn't want to go there, but yes, that's what I was getting at.
I've got no problem.
you should limit close contact, including sex, with anyone outside your household. If you do have sex with others outside your household, have as few partners as possible and pick partners you trust. Talk about COVID risk factors just as you would discuss other safety protocols before COVID. Ask them about COVID-19 before you hook up. So not only are you talking about, do you have gonorrhea? Do you have syphilis? Well, do you have COVID-19?
All right.
These things you have to talk about now.
Okay.
It's good. It's good stuff in New York
I
City.
mean, I suppose.
I wonder if COVID-19 is sexually transmittable.
Well, they
Yeah,
said
there's
it.
no evidence.
Well, no, there is definitely no evidence that it is.
Now, next
I
one
mean, why
is,
don't they just say don't kiss?
well, we'll get to that
Oh, okay.
because that's.
I mean, a fact. If you're talking generally speaking, the coronavirus, not COVID-19, but coronaviruses in general, are not transmittable through sex.
yeah. Well,
So.
New York City says
Or
otherwise.
I should say, do not easily.
Wait, NYZ suggests.
Do not easily No, because it's weird. Yes, you can get it from having sex with somebody, but not.
Well, Dave is the COVID sex expert.
Well, I'm just saying.
You're right. I mean, sex
he is our Dr. Fauci.
Clearly, New York City listened to what I had to say last week, and I'm just saying there's smart ways you can go.
I feel like he's.
We're going to talk about the smart ways.
I feel like he's filling the void of Dr. Drew.
Yeah.
It's all those loopholes
Yeah.
that are getting filled.
So
Love line.
here's one of the best lines of this whole thing. If two is company, then three or more is definitely a crowd. Close contact with multiple people should be avoided. But if you decide to find a crowd, below are tips to reduce your risk of spreading or getting COVID-19. Limit.
Wait, so let's clarify this.
Yes.
This is the state of New York
Yes.
telling people how to safely have an orgy.
No, this is just New York City. This is just New York City.
The city of New York
Yes.
telling people how to safely have an
They're
orgy.
saying don't, but if you have to.
If you really, really
We're
have
not
to.
telling you not to. We are telling you not to, but if you have to. And these are the tips for preventing it, okay? Limit the size of your guest list. Keep it intimate. So if you're going to have an orgy, make sure it's people you know.
Under a dozen.
Yeah.
How do you define
That's
intimate
boring, though.
in
That's
that
so boring.
in that there?
Well, that says go with a constant sex partner. So if you're having orgies
That's
already.
like the exact opposite point of an orgy.
And then it says pick larger, more open and well-ventilated spaces.
Outdoors.
Well,
Outdoors,
yes.
really. Yeah.
Central Park, I see,
Central
is
Park's
nice in
smart.
June.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard.
It is.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Here we go. Wear a face covering. Avoid kissing and do not touch your eyes, nose, or mouth with unwashed hands.
So we can go back to the panic porn.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Basically, a
Creates a whole new level of.
morbid version of saying "at your own risk."
Pretty much.
Right.
If you usually meet your sex partners online or make a living by having sex, this is for more of the people who are,
Sex workers, yes.
Consider taking a break from in-person dates. Video dates, sexting, subscription-based fan platforms, sexy Zoom parties, or chat rooms may be options for you.
How many sexy Zoom parties have you had in the quarantine?
I don't know. I don't think our last podcast was very sexy.
No,
That doesn't qualify.
No.
not sexy.
Yeah. No. So if you're into that, if you make a living from that, do some other
Webcamming, basically.
webcam. Yeah. If you decide to have sex outside of your circle of contacts or a hookup, here's some things. It's pretty much the same thing. Monitor symptoms, whatever. And here's the best one: take precautions interacting with people at risk for severe COVID, such as people over the age of 65.
That's not discrimination. I mean,
man.
they're saying, okay, you're a sex worker,
Yeah.
potentially,
Yeah.
because that was part of previous.
Yeah.
But don't have sex with anyone over 65. So if you have a paying customer,
Yeah.
consensual paying customer, but he's 66, you got to kick him to the curb.
I think there has to be some ID checks at the door.
I mean, are we talking? We're going to start seeing fake IDs
Before you hand
to
me
make them younger.
Before you hand your envelope of money, you need to see an ID first. I think that's going to happen.
I mean, are they going to get those ID readers to make sure
Might
they're
potentially.
legit?
Yeah. But be careful. Anybody over 65, don't.
You just wonder. I remember last podcast we talked about Boris Johnson and his rules about hookers.
Oh, yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have the same kind of rules and regulations for London. Maybe. I don't,
Probably the same. I mean, this kind of seems like a London type of deal. Like
yeah. I mean, it's New York. It's
not as like strict as London, but
Yeah.
a little bit like that.
Well,
Is it just me or the music went way down here as we're having this
Yeah,
conversation?
they want because they want to hear it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Then the next part is take care during your sex.
This is good. This is
Kissing
what I
can
was
easily
trying to
pass the
because
virus.
you don't take care.
Avoid kissing anyone who is not part of your small circle of close contacts. So don't kiss anybody. And it says, wear a face covering or mask. Maybe it's your thing. Maybe it's not.
You skipped one there, Tony, in their device.
We're not talking about that.
I was going to say, you can go read it.
We're not talking about that one. You can read it yourself. You go to the NYC thing, you read it yourself. I'm not talking about that. That's that one right there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah,
they're
definitely
totally
recommend-
trying to turn it into a
You
kink.
should What's the link to this? You should do that when you're done with this here.
I guess
Well,
it's good to know now. It's a little late that
yeah.
they give you that information.
But it says maybe it's your thing, maybe it's not your thing. But during COVID, wearing a face covering that covers your nose and mouth is a good way to add a layer of protection during sex.
Kind of like a condom.
Heavy breathing and panting can spread the virus further. And if you or your partner have COVID and don't know it, a mask can help stop that spread. And then we bring up what we talked about, what Dave was talking about last time. Make it a little kinky. Be creative with sexual positions and physical barriers like walls that allow sexual contact while preventing close face-to-face
They're
contact.
bringing back the glory hole. Is what's
Pretty much is what
Right.
they're doing. Yeah.
Yes.
Or that suit that we were talking about,
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 podcasts ago?
Yes. So that is NYC's. I didn't say all of it. You can go online and look at it, the NYC's contact thing. But I had to bring it up because we brought it up last time a little bit.
They clearly listen to the podcast and then
They clearly do.
Yeah.
put up their own regulations.
Yeah, they put it on.
Dave, you made it into New York, man.
You did.
I mean, we could literally have made a whole episode about
We
that.
could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love the fact about the walls and other positions because that's what we
Yes.
talked about last time.
I'm more interested in what you left out there. I really want to.
I look it up yourself. 'Cause I'm not bringing it up. There's things I'll say on this podcast and things I won't say, and that's one of those things I won't say on this podcast.
I'm not going to say it
unfortunately-
either. Yeah.
Unfortunately, our podcast goes from explicit to somewhere beyond with that.
Yeah.
What you were
Not
going
quite
over
X-rated, but
We're not Howard Stern here. Okay?
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that stuff.
All right.
So let's get out of here, guys. Anything else you guys want to bring up? Any crazy things happening? I do want to say that I talked about some podcasts last time that my grandparents did pass away, and we had the memorial service last Friday. It was very weird. In the COVID age, having a service, funerals, especially in a small town like where I'm from, you have a funeral in the small little church, and a lot of the older people who knew them would come out and be like, hey, whatever. Nothing like that. It was out at the cemetery. I circled my family. There was no older friends or whatever out there talking to you about what your grandparents used to do or how they met them. It was very surreal. So anybody who's had anybody die during this time and has to go through that, it's a crazy experience. A big circle of your family having a little service, and that's that. So anything else you guys want to bring up? We all good?
yeah.
I think so.
I
yeah.
think
We
so.
are.
All right. I want to say thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. I also want to say thanks to Alloy Brewing Company for having us out
Yeah.
during this whole thing. I know they are going
First time in
through-
3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again we
Good to
are.
be back.
It's great to be back, guys, and Alloy's been great. Too bad we couldn't hit Dave, the beer tender, up this time. I know he's closing tonight, but it'd be nice to have him on the podcast again sometime. You can find us on BGN.FM,
Minnesota Podcast Network.
Minnesota Podcast Network, Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, anywhere you can find a podcast.
Whatever Google's one is called, I can never remember what it's called.
Yeah, you can
It's
find
on
us pretty much anywhere. Just look up Loonacy Podcast and you'll find us. For myself, Tony, for Dave, David, and Connor, we'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks.
All right,
See ya.